Hello everyone, welcome to Code One, and in this video I'm going to show you how can you read or write the data. In the first session we'll cover the data writing into any external file. So this is an automation testing tutorial series with Selenium, and this is also an important interview question or interview mandatory task when you work with a kind of framework that have a data. Okay, when you implement data driven framework in Selenium, you need to do this type of work. You have to store sometime information into Excel file, or sometime you have to read the information from the Excel file. So in this video, in this first session, we'll cover the write data, like how can you write a data into Excel sheet. So for that, I want to clear some point here. uh, we are using Java with Selenium in this complete series, and this is not a part of a Selenium. Okay, Selenium is a web driver that help us to communicate with the browser. It's not communicate with external files or Excel files. So for that, what we have to use to write the data, let's give a comment, write data into XLSX. So for this, we have to use a third-party library, that is POI. So I'm going to give you here this one. Apache POI is there. That's going to help us to perform this task. So by the using this dependency, this API, we can perform operation related to the database, related to the Excel files, or to transfer the data, or we can say read and write the data in Excel file. Okay, so the very first step, what I need to do, first I need to add this. If you are new for this, just add this dependency into your dependencies tag in your form.xml. Click on save. When you save it, it will build and allow you to access those classes. First, we have to prepare a workbook. So let's say, just understand, when you import this workbook, import it from this POI library and user model class, and this is an interface. And here, let's create a workbook equals to new workbook. So what we are doing here, we just create an there is a class that is called SX. Okay, SXSSF workbook. Okay, create an object of this, and then in this we have to create a sheet. So workbook dot create sheet, and here we need to pass the name of sheet. It is something like we are creating a new Excel file like this. So we are creating Excel file means we are creating an instantiating object of workbook. Then under this Excel, I'm going to create some sheet. Okay, let's say I create a blank, and here I'm passing the sheet name as a demo. So the same parameter we are going to use here to pass it as a demo, as a sheet name. Now this will return a sheet. Okay, so let's store it, and let's make sure you are importing it from POISS user model, and this name will be sheet. And then in this sheet, what we can do, we can create a row, sheet dot create row. Okay, and I'm passing index 0. Why I'm passing index 0? Because here I want to create access this first row, first row 1, row 2, row 3. So it will start from the index will start from 0, so it will target to this row. Okay, so I just pass it as a create row as a 0. And in this example, we are seeing how can you add a single cell value. Then we'll see how can you add a bulk data into a column format or into a row format. We'll give that example as well. So we have created a row here, and it will return a row. So let's store it into row. And now, okay, into this row, let's create a cell. So row dot create cell, and I'm passing index again 0 because I want to access this one, this cell, the first cell. So I pass it as a 0, and it will return me again a cell. So, cell. Now I have this cell right here. Okay, so I can access this. Now I need to set a value to it. So let's say cell dot set value and set cell value, we can say. Okay, here I'm passing a value hello automation, and yeah, now we have to create like we have created our excel is ready. Now what I need to do, I need to store this excel. We need to get the path of that excel file where we want to create that excel, and then next we will write data by using file output stream. So let's create a path. Okay, so a string path equals to, let's create a folder here into my project, and that will be contain all my data resources. So let's say data source, I can name it as a data source. Okay, here into data source I want to create this excel sheet. Okay, so first I need to get the environmental path, current directory, path of my current directory. So what can I do? In Java we have a system dot get property, and in this we can pass a property user dot it will dir, I guess, user dot directory, yes, and then we can concatenate with this path our name, this system dot get property user dir will return path of this Selenium Java Selenium folder, and after that we have another folder called data source. So we have to concatenate this. So I just add it here with double slash data source, and after that the file name. So let's say user data. I just keep a file name as a data and extension as XLSX, right? I guess it's done. So now we have our path ready. Now we have to write into a file. So let's create an object of file equals to new file, and into this file I'm going to pass my path. Now let's create an object of file output stream. FOS equals to new file output stream, and I'm going to pass my file object here. Okay, it will return exception, it will throw an exception, so I'm declaring it like this. And yeah, now we have our output stream ready. So we have a workbook also, so call the workbook and write output stream FOS to it. This will also return a IO exception, so let's throw it. Okay, now at the last we have to close and flush it, our output stream. So close and FOS dot flush it. Yeah, that's that. So in this way, what we are doing, we are writing this message into a Excel file that will be stored, that will be auto created by this script into this data source. Okay, so this is done by Java only. We are not using any Selenium class or Selenium method to perform this task. So we will use this data and this Java code into our automation script to write the data when sometime we are reading the data from browser or from the web page, and we need to store that into Excel file. So we will use this script to write the data. Okay, and what is the important thing for that? We have a POI library. So let's run the code quickly and see is this file is writing the data. I guess execution is done, and if I check this data source folder, and you can see user data folder is there. Let me open it and go to properties folder, data source, and when I open this file I can see the message here as a hello automation. Okay, this is the way where we can add the single data into our Excel file, right? And now let's suppose we have a situation where we have a 10 list of the 10 users that we want to store in a form of column or in the form of column or row. Let's say I want to store some data in my Excel. here into columns, these columns or these rows. Okay, so how can I deal with the bulk data? Okay, so you will use the same code but we'll make some changes. So for testing, let's create a simple list here. I'm creating a list. The type of list will be string, and we can say this is user list, and here let's create an object of array list of type string, and then user list dot add string. Here let's say I'm going to add user one. I'm going to copy the same lines of code, so we can say user 5, user 4, user 3, and user 2, and user 1. Okay, so we have this list. Now I want to store this list into my Excel. We want to write this complete data, user 1, user 2, user 3, user 4, user 5, into my Excel, into the same in this same Excel. So to solve this, how can we do that? Let's create a for each loop and render the value one by one from this list, and we can name it as a user. So this user will contain each value in each iteration of this loop. So these are the common thing we have to deal every time with the same seed, so we don't need to put this into a loop. But and also, let's say I want to keep the row constant and I want to store the data into a column. Okay, in that case I can keep it as static, like this, like out of the loop, and then we have these two lines of code that we have to keep into the loop. Why? Because we are creating a cells every time, but it's passing 0, so it will access only 0th index. So for that, what I can do, I can create a counter, and I can do it as a 0. I can initialize it as 0, and then here I am doing counter plus plus, and in this cell I'm passing my counter. So with every iterate it will increase by 1 and create a next cell in the same row, right? And then in the cell set value, this time we are not passing this manually. Instead we will pass the dynamic value that we are getting here into this user from our array list, right? Yeah, I think it's done, and rest will be same. And at the end, let's type a message. Say, we can say user is added into, right? So let's run it quickly and check what output we are getting now. Yeah, user is added in XLSX. Now let's refresh this and open this file again and check, do we have a data into a column format? Yes, we can store the data. Now let's suppose I want to store this data into a row format. So how can I do that? I just need to make some changes, because just understand, whatever the index we are passing into a create row 0 and create cells, this will decide in which row and cells the data will go. Okay, so in case of column, we have to iterate this row as well. So each time we need a new row, so we can pass this counter here, right, with each every loop, but the cell will be always at 0th index. Okay, that's it. This is the only changes that we need to make to convert it into a column. So I just right click, run this our application. Done. Now let's check it. So you can see this time it's stored the application into a column format. So in this way you can play with XLS file, and you can write the data, and also you can write the bulk data. You can write the data into a column format and to a row format. So now our task is to read the data from XLSX. Okay, now the very first thing, I need to get the path of this file. So same thing, to get the path, I'm going to create a string path equals to let we need to get the path of this folder in this file. So first let me get a dynamic path. So for in Java, to get the dynamic path, we can get system.get property, and here we can pass a parameter user.dir. That this will give me a path of this folder, okay, this Java Selenium. And then I have to concatenate a path equals to path plus I can say plus folder name. So what is my folder name? My folder name is data source, so I can say data source, and here the file name is user data.xlx, right? So now my path is ready, and something is went wrong. Okay, this is capital P, so I have to make it small p. Yeah, now my path is ready. Now how can I access the path? So let's create an object of file here. File from Java.io. File equals to new file. Okay, and this will take a path. So it will create a connection with this file, and then this time we are going to read the data, and it means we are going to create an input stream. Okay, so file input stream fis equals to new file input stream, and this will take a file. Okay, now we have created a connection with this file. So to handle the rows and columns, we are going to use the POI library. Make sure if you are not following the previous video and you are directly jump into this, so make sure you are adding this POI library dependency in your pom.xml, so it will allow you to access the workbook. Okay, so here what I need to do, I need to create a workbook object. Workbook equals to new sxssf workbook, I can say, yeah, this one. And this will take input stream as a FIS. If I go here and check what it's taking, I can pass FIS here, and I guess this is XSS. Okay, the correct name is XSSF workbook, and it will take a file input as a stream, file input stream as a input. Now if you notice, we have connected with this file, right, by passing the path, but there can be a multiple seeds. Okay, seed 1, seed 2. So on which seed we want to connect? We want to connect with the demo seed. Okay, so just copy this name and let's get this seed. So workbook.get seed method is there that will return the seed. We are passing the seed name here, and it will return a seed. So we can say seed, right? Now in this seed, it will return rows and columns. So we can say cell. So seed dot, let's say seed dot row. Okay, seed dot get row, I guess. Yeah, 0. So we are passing 0th index, means first let's read the data of this in this cell, the user one. We need to read this user one. Okay, so how can I do that? So if you notice, this is the row 1 and column 1. So the index will start from 0, so we will consider it as 0 as a row and 0 as a column. So I'm calling a seed get row as a 0, and it will return a row, so I can store into a row. Now in this row, the first column first cell I need. So row dot get cell, and I pass the 0th index again. So it will again return me a cell, right? So let's store into a cell. Now let's say I want to read the data of this cell. So I can say cell dot get string cell value. Okay, I'm clearing my console, and let's run this and check this is printing or not. So we want to print this user one. We are accessing the first cell, 0th index for row, 0th index for column. I just right click, run this my main method, and it's running, and see, it's showing me a user one. Okay, now let's say we don't want to in specific index, and we want to total count of rows and get total row count, how many rows are there into seeds. So how can you do that? So for that we have, let's say, integer row count. I want to store it into a variable, and we have a seed dot get last row number. It means it will come here and check 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 on this file. So let's print this. Sys out okay, not this one. It should be sys out and total row count equals to row count, right? Let's run it again and check first the total row count is 4. So we can say it's starting from 0th index, so it means 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you want to print the exact one, we can do a +1. So it will display now 5. So now it's showing 41. Okay, it's concatenating this, so we have to do like this. Yeah. Fine. Similarly, if you want to read the data total column count, get total column count. How can we do that? The column is available into the cell. So what I can say, int col count equals to cell dot get last cell dot get. We should have a method here, numerical value which row, no, not this one. Okay, so let's say we are assuming in the first row we have a maximum column, right? So we can say row dot get last cell number, so it will return me total count of column. So let's print it. Sys out total column count equals to this. Now we have a column only 1, so let's do this. So as showing me total column count is a 1. Let's say I want to add more column. I add 1, 2, 3. Okay, so 0, 1, 2, 3. This time output should be 3. Let's run it. I just refresh. I have just make changes in my Excel manually, and now if you see, it's showing me 4. Okay, let's count again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, the cell 1 is not a starting 0, it's a starting from 1 and returning total count of the row. Next thing, let's say I want to read the data in a loop. So I want to read the data of this specific column, the complete column. So how can I do that? So for that I can use a loops. Okay, let's say we'll keep a for loop here. There will start integer I from 0. Let's say read bulk data. Okay, we can say it read bulk data, and for that I'm starting a loop at integer I 0, and then I is less than row count, means these are the rows. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So until it will iterate the data until this row will be there, and then I plus plus. Okay, here my cell always will be 0, but row will be changed. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to change my row index as a I. So in a first iteration it will read the data of 0th row, then first row, second row, third row, and fourth row. But in every case the cell will be 0 only, so I just keep the cell as a 0. Okay, and then we can say here sys out cell dot get string cell value. There are many methods in this, like we can read the formulas, we can manipulate the Excel in any form by using POI library. If you get chance, go to the Google and learn about it. You will get more content about this. So you see here, we are getting the data user 1, 2, 3, 4. The complete data is there we have. Okay, but 5 is not there. So row count. Okay, we have to do equals to, because we are already starting it from 0. So this time it will read the complete data, so the 5. Now let's say you want to read the column data, not a row data. What can we do? The simple logic you have to perform here. In that case, the row will be constant. Okay, so I'm just changing it as a comment, and now this time it will be 0 only. But cell always will be changed as a I until it will reach to the column count. Right, column count. And let's run this and read what we are going to see here. See, we are getting this column data. Okay, but we have some cell as a null pointer exception. It means let's do it 0. Yeah, this output is clear, and it's showing user1 fdgd fdgdf and gd. Okay, so these data is printed. So in this way you can read the data. Already you have seen the how can we write the data. So the very basic steps, first you have to communicate with, create a connection with this file. First you have to read the path of the file, where is the file is located. Then you have to find the create input stream. Then you have to set up your workbook, and then you can manipulate the rows and column according to your requirement. Okay, in reverse order, to write the data, what we need to do, first we need to prepare our data, then we have to prepare your Excel sheet workbook, and then we can create output stream, and then we can write the data over there. So here you have seen how can we write the data and how can we read the data. In this one we will again read the data, but we'll make it bit tricky. We are going to read the data by column name. Let's say I have this Excel sheet and I created this Excel sheet. It's located in my data source folder. This is user data, and it contains user data like ID, username and password, and this. So I want to read the data that is available under this column, under this heading, all this data like Alice, Bob and Charlie's data of all these rows. Okay, so how can I read the data by this column name? Okay, so we will use our old code only, and if you don't watch the previous video, I will recommend you to watch the previous video in this playlist and then continue this, or let me write it from the scratch. So I'm removing this old code to read the data, and here okay, this is my main method. I'm going to remove all the packages that is not in the used, right? Throws a exception is also removing. So this is simple my main method, and here I'm going to perform this operation. So let me format it, and let's say I'm going to add a comment here, read data from XLSX by column name, right? So at the very first, what I need to do, I need to first I need to go this file, this path. So first thing, I need a path. So I'm just creating a path by using system dot get property. If you are already watching my previous video, you would easily understand what is this system dot property are doing here. So what I'm doing here, I'm going to take the dynamic path of this folder. Like I'm not sure if in case this project is moved into the other machine, so we need a dynamic path of this folder Java Selenium, and then we have a folder data source. So I'm going to concatenate this with this. So I say plus string, and the folder name is data source, so you are C, right? And then the file name. So file name is user data dot XLSX, right? So this is the path of my file. Now let's create a input stream. Next thing, I need an input stream. So I'm just creating object of file from Java.io, and then new file, It says file, okay, and then I'm going to pass the path, right? Let's create an input stream. Say file input stream fis equals to new file input stream, and here I'm going to pass my file, okay, this file. This will throw an exception, so let's throw an exception that says file not found in case of file is not found. Okay, now we have an input stream. It means by using this FIS, I can read the data of this file, right? The next thing, as we are using POI dependency Apache POI, so I can create an object of workbook, okay? So make sure if you are creating an object of workbook, if you don't find this package, you just need to import this library, or you can say dependency in your form.xml, you will easily get it. Okay, so workbook equals to new workbook, oh sorry, it will be XSS workbook, okay, and here we can pass our in final that file input stream FIS. Now it will again throw an IO exception, so we can throw it and we can change it to IO exception. This is the root class. And now this workbook means we are going to access this sheet, okay, user data sheet. Now this in this Excel file we have a sheet name as a demo sheet 1 sheet 2, so we want to access this demo sheet only. So how can I set this into my code? I can say to my workbook, let's say focus on the sheet equals to workbook.get sheet and the sheet name. I can pass the sheet name here as a demo, right? So let's import the sheet from Apache POI. Yeah, now my sheet is ready. Now next thing, I need to read the column name, all this column name, okay? So I need this data of this row. So how we can read that? For that we have a row equals to sheet dot get row, and this is at 0th index, okay? You know this seed will start from the 0th index, so this is a 0th row, and as an index this one 1 and 2. So I'm going to read the column name of these headings, okay, these headings. So how can I do that? Just import this row, the very first from Apache POI. Okay, now let's create a cell. Okay, if I check the cell over here, cell equals to, okay, let's say read all the value of that row. So I'm going to put a for each loop and I'm going to use the cell here, all the cells, and it's asking me to import it, I guess. Rename cell to cell, it's cell only. Okay, not a table. If we want this one, yeah, we need to import this cell package from Apache POI. Okay, now the row will be always this will iterate each and every cell of this first row, okay? So let's print it. For example, let's check is working or not. So I'm going to say cell dot get a string cell value, okay? Let's say how many values we are getting here. Okay, you can see ID, username and the password, means we are getting these details, right? These details. Now the tricky part, how would I know I need to specify the data of this username column? So we have to find the index of it, okay? So how can I find the index? How can I find the index for that? So for that, let's do some tricky Java code and create a has map here. Has map, and this will be type of integer as a key and value will be string for it. So I can say we can say it we can say has map, or we can say hm equals to new has map here, right? And let's create it here, and
I want to put these value into this has map. Okay, so how can I do that? I'm going to comment this for now, and let's say hm dot put. Okay, and here we need to pass the key. Okay, so what is the key? Key will be cell dot get column index, right? And as a path, what can I pass here? I can pass cell dot get string cell value. Okay, now we are creating a has map and adding the value. So in the string, in this string index, in this string side, value side, it will store id, username and password, and in the index side it will store here 0 1 2 as an index. So let's retrieve the data, retrieve the value and check what's inside our has map right now. So how can we retrieve the value from has map? So we can say for each, again I can put a for each loop over there, and I can say map dot entry, and here I can pass again integer and string type, and this will be my has, I can say hm1, and this will be routed to map dot entry, or I can say it will be get entry, and this is my map. Okay, so I can pass it as a variable here hm dot entry set. Okay, I can call the entry set from here. Now this hm1 will have like values or the user data. We can keep it as user data. Okay, now from this user data, what I need to do, I need to find the index. Let's put it, let's print it and check what we are getting. The user data dot get key I'm passing here, and yeah, it will return me a key. Then I'm using a space and user data dot get value, it will return me a value. Like, let's print it. Now if you notice, it will showing 0 1 2 as index and user id, username and password. So we are just handling this data only for now to identify the column name. So it's showing that id is on index 0 1 2. Always remember the index in Excel index will be remembered from the 0 index. Okay, so now we have index. Also we have a has map that contains the column index and the column name. So we can put a check here, and what will be the check? Let's say exactly what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to find a integer column index. Okay, column index. And why we need a column index, let me show you. Because by the column index we will read the data of the complete column. Okay, so here I'm going to put a check again. If this user data dot get value is equals to the column name. Okay, and the column name in my case is uname. Okay, so I'm going to copy the exact name here and I'm going to pass it. If this thing is this get value is equal to this, then column index equals to user data dot get key. It means we are storing this index into this user data. Okay, we are getting this key and we are finding the column index. So now we have the column index as a let's say for the username the index will be 1, so the value will be 1 for the column index. Now the simple thing, we have already have the rows. Okay, so we have to make some changes into here as well, and now we are retrieving the data by index for the column this. Okay, so the row will be changed 1 2 3 4, but cell will be static. The cell will be 0 1. Okay, so cell will be 0. So let me change it. So row, okay, final get data here, So I'm going to put a loop again, for each loop, and here what we are going to do, we are running a loop integer I equals to 0, and then I is less than how much row. We have a row here, so let's say it's not a row. Okay, row dot count, row dot get first count. We need a length of this row, I guess last cell number we can say. Okay, so last cell number, it means this one, 0 1 2, it will iterate till 2, and then and we can keep it equals to, because always index will start from 0 only, and then we can keep it I plus plus, fine. And now this loop will run, and row will be always static here, so I can say row set row, and sorry, row will be changed every time, so I will pass it I. So in the first iteration it will read the data of this row, second index, in the second iteration it will read the data of this row, then third iteration, and then fourth iteration. Okay, so it means the I will be changed every time. Now the challenging part is the seed or the cell. Here I'm going to say again, let's say cell equals to row dot get cell, but cell will be constant here. So cell will be, what will be the cell here, and we can keep it as cell 0 or 1. Okay, so this will be a first. So for the cell only we have find this index, so we can find this column index and we can pass this, so it will be 1 only. So let me print it so it will be easily understand. Sys out why we retrieve this. So this is my column index, okay. So I found this column index and I passed this. So in this case the column index will be constant and the row will be changed every time, so it will reach to the length and print the data. Now we have data into this cell. So what should be my next step? I can just SOP it, cell dot get string cell value, right? So it will print all the details. Yeah, I can say here one message, so it will be easy to understand for you. So I can say final data for uname column, right? Let's run it. Now when I run it, you will see the final data for we can say final data for u column name, and it's showing uname, Alice, Bob and Charlie, but it's also printing uname, so we should not get this. Okay, we don't need this uname, we just need Alice, Bob and Charlie. What can I do? I can start this loop from 1. This is simple Java. Okay, you can see now it's printing final data for uname column is Alice, Bob and Charlie, right? And now you understand why we get this column name. We are doing this hashmap trick because we need this column index of this username. Okay, that's why we are getting this. But do you think we are writing all the code into this file, this main file? So how can you make it a method and then create a method and that this method will return all the things? So I'm removing this thing and I'm creating a simple method, public, let's say static, and I can name it a list, and this will return me a data of list. So the name is get data by column name. This is a method name, and this will take an input string as a name. Okay, we can say column name, right? And done. Now let's create a simple list that we will return this list here. So let's create a list. So list of type string equals to list equals to new array list, right? We have created one list of array list here, and again important thing, this will like return an argument, also it will throws exception, so we have to add the exception as well. So I'm going to add this exception here, IO exception, and then we need to return this list, but this is empty list, okay? We didn't add the value till now. So from here I can go to the list dot add, and I can add the value as a this value cell dot get string value, right? Get string value, nice. Now that's fine. At the end of this method, what I can do, I can return this list. Okay, now we have added the value to this list, and I can return list like this, and yeah, this my method is ready. Now the magical part is we are getting an input as a column name, so we can replace this u name that is static to a dynamic value. Now whenever I need to read the data of any column from this seed, what can I do? I can call this method like this, get column name, and I can pass my column name. So let's say I'm passing column name as a u name, okay, and I guess u is capital over there. Just make sure you are using the exact name that is available here. Yeah, u is capital. Yeah, so it will return me a name, but let's comment all the prints, all the console logs, and see what we are getting here. Yeah, all the SOPs are done. All the SOPs are commented now, and when I run, it's not printing anything final data for the uname column. Yeah, so for that I'm calling here, but I'm not printing here. So how can I use it? So create a list of a string type that is returning here, and then get this method, store the value into the list, put a for each loop, and keep it a user name, we can say, from this list, and we can print it here, sys out and username, right? I save the code, rerun the code, you will see the data Alice, Bob, and Charlie, right? Now let's say I have write this code one time and I want to change the column name. So this time I want to data of the pass field, pass column. So I just pass it here as a pass, and now you will see the magic, and you will see the data of the magic, the data of the password field. You can see this is Alice at the underscore 123, pass and the underscore 123, and again pass 1 underscore 123 we are getting as a pass data. So by this way you can read the data of any column by its name, right? So what is the tricky part here? The tricky part is to find the index of the column. So here let's say how this code will be executed. Let me explain you again. First thing, just we are here creating a path of that file, we are creating input stream, then we are creating a connection with our workbook, and then we are reading the whole column value of our header and storing that value into a hash map. Why? Because we need an index of that column. So in this case, let's say pass is coming here into the column name, and the pass will be written here, and we are finding the key. Let's say we are getting here, we are putting a condition, if this hash map, the value of this hash map is equals to our column name, then return the key of that particular index, okay, particular value. So the key is always index, like column index. So it will store the value here into the column index. By default value will be 0, and then we are iterating our loop to put the operations. So I have recorded 3 video for handling the Excel sheet while you're working with automation, or while you're working with the like Java. This is not a part of automation. This is a simple writing and reading the data from the Excel sheet that you can use in your automation, and this is a mandatory things, because it's while you're working with e-commerce application or any application for the automation, you must need to handle the data. So in this way you can handle the data. Thank you so much for watching. If you like the video, please subscribe the code one, and comment if you need any specific video related to